Welcome to another episode of the Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast, where we believe most high net worth individuals and those who help them struggle with clarifying their capital gains tax deferral options. Not having a clear plan is the enemy, and using a proven tax deferral strategy, such as the Deferred Sales Trust, is the best way for you to exit your business or real estate. I'm your host, Brett Swarts. In each episode, I'm joined by some of the best real estate, financial, wealth, and business minds in the world, where they share their ideas, deal stories, and inspiration. So together we can make complex tax deferral strategies simple and passive income plans achievable. I'm excited about our next guest. He's a repeat guest. He is formerly a financial advisor, and now he is the national trainer with the estate planning team, and particularly an expert in the Deferred Sales Trust. He focuses on helping financial advisors grow their practice using this amazing tax referral strategy to help their clients and grow their AUM. With that being said, please welcome to the show with me, Michael McIntyre. Michael, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm doing wonderful. Enjoying this new year, 2021. I think a lot of people are happy that 2020 is over, but we had a record year with it. I know personally many people that struggled in 2020, but 2021 was a good year for estate planning team.
Beautiful. And for our listeners who are wondering, Capital Gains Tax Solutions is a member of the estate planning team. So we're one of the exclusive trustees to help you and or your clients close your deferred sales trust. We all work as a team, and that's the key here. I love that the co-founder of the Deferred Sales Trust, he played for the 49ers. I grew up in the Bay Area watching the 49ers, and he played with Jerry Rice and Joe Montana. And he is the financial advisor for most deals, although we work with other financial advisors and teach them how to basically duplicate the success that Mr. Binkley has had. But that being said, that's where Michael's on the front lines for that. And you can learn more about that on his YouTube channel, as well as reach out to Michael directly. And we'll talk about that here at the end of the show. But in this particular show, we're going to focus like a laser on basically what's happening in the real estate market and where we think the future of that's going, as well as the future of the 1031 exchange. You know, new Biden administration and lots of potential changes. Nothing has happened yet, but we are seeing current trends right now outside of shifts of migration. And so we're going to dive right into that. So, Michael, would you give us kind of the state of the union here? What's the state of California real estate, of New York? What are you seeing, and what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm not an expert on real estate, but I like to look at trends and things that are happening and that are, I mean, these are things that are maybe obvious to a lot of people. What we're seeing is certain counties, the county I'm in, which is Orange County, for example, and I could just think of maybe Santa Clara County in demographics. We're seeing that population it has decreased in 3 consecutive years. I've never seen that before in Orange County. I'm not aware that it's ever happened. And I'm certainly not aware that Silicon Valley, Santa Clara County, has had 3 consecutive negative years. That's not a sustainable model for real estate or for anything else. And other things that are not sustainable are the fact that many of these counties in California, you cannot evict anybody. And that Overton goalposts just keep moving with respect to evictions. I don't know where it will end. I don't know how this is a possible sustainable model for increasing real estate. So if maybe somebody, could explain that to me. I don't see how that's possible. If you can't evict somebody, and then furthermore, there are many rent control situations in different counties and different rules. And then maybe even the bigger one, which is people kind of figured out in 2020 how not to occupy an office space. New York, California, Los Angeles, and they're finding out what we're doing right now, which is live streaming, that at your home, where I am, a lot of people have figured out how to work out of their home and be efficient and have nice, big, large bandwidth to operate as many Americans are. How does that sustain office buildings? And that puts the state of real estate in certain states like California, New York, New Jersey, where people are emigrating from and migrating to states like Texas and Florida, where you're seeing large amounts of populations. So how will that affect them? And that affects revenue. That affects real estate prices. That affects all sorts of things. And I think it affects the 1031, maybe in a different way than we thought possible. The 1031 is on notice by President-elect Biden, who says that he wants to eliminate the 1031 and the step up in basis. Now,
So let's pause there. Let's pause there, and let's focus like a laser on the first part, and then we'll get to the second part, which is kind of the migration and the changes. And likewise, Michael, I'm seeing the same thing. Even just I've had a number of friends move out of California, and they're landing in a place called Tennessee, right? They're loving that, and as well as a lot of investors and a lot of opportunities seen in Texas. Multifamily value add deals, seeing more of those opportunities. In fact, Tesla, Oracle, and HP all announced in the past about 120 days or so that they're all relocating to Austin, Texas, and it's a booming area. And you just wonder at what point will places like California or New York or other places that are seeing a big migration out, when is it going to change, and what's it going to take? And that's kind of the interesting part. It seems like the level of accountability and the level of change is just, it's not there. It just doesn't seem like the leaders really care that these businesses are fleeing, or at least they're not really making any changes to keep them or incentivize them to stay in. Any thoughts on that, Michael?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of accountability issues that will eventually happen. It hasn't happened yet, and the emigration from these three states is pretty big, and it doesn't seem like it's going to stop, like you alluded to. We have a large family of 8 adult children, and only 3 are agreeing to live or stay here in California. And so while that's painful, they're going to states like Tennessee and Texas and other places to live. And that undercuts an entire middle class and an entire youth of children. When they can't attend school, where are they going to go? So that is an issue. But I did want to tie the immigration issue and revenues, state revenues, to the 1031, if I may.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's dive into that here in just a second. I actually want to just highlight what's happening for our listeners who may not be aware that Biden is proposing some kind of elimination and or restrictions on the 1031 exchange. This is actually known, it's dubbed as the Biden plan for mobilizing American talent and heart to create a 21st century caregiving education workforce. And that could eliminate the 1031 exchange for high-earning real estate investors. According to the Biden campaign, the plan will cost about $775 billion over 10 years and will be paid for by rolling back what they deem as unproductive and unequal tax breaks for real estate investors with incomes over $400,000, and taking steps to increase tax compliance for high-income earners. And so this 1031 exchange is not the first time it's been challenged or proposed to maybe take away or eliminate or pulled back, but it is seeming more real. Now that the Senate has in Georgia been taken by the Democrats, they have kind of a bridge to do what they want to do, it seems like, at this point. And so that is definitely more. And in the past, when this has been challenged, it seemed like there was more bipartisan support on both sides on why to keep it. And so it's going to be interesting to see what happens here. And at the state of it, I keep saying they're running out of money, Michael, and they're spending too much, and they're just looking for ways to get short-term fixes. But we believe here at Capital Gains Tax Solutions, and I think Michael would agree, that the 1031 exchange is a really good thing, right? It incentivizes property owners to trade property and move up and take their equity and get it working for them, right? Which actually creates more jobs, creates more tax revenue, and is a good thing. And if you do the opposite and you restrict that, they're less likely to keep the money flowing and keep the equity going and selling their properties and moving into bigger assets and improving assets as well. That's another thing about why you would take equity and trade it. So, Michael, any thoughts on just the 1031 in general and Biden's proposed plan to take it away?
So you mentioned, the Senate changing, and the Senate still has the filibuster, and that takes 60 to get over the filibuster. So I'm a little dubious in President-elect Biden. Struggling for the description there, is in his ability to get it through, ram it through the Senate. He still has to get through Senator Joe Manchin out of West Virginia. He kind of flip-flops back and forth. So the ability for President-elect Biden to actually get it through the Senate, I'm a little dubious, because it's such a narrow split, and then you've got that filibuster. But what I do think that might render the 1031 a little more difficult is getting back to this immigration issue. You mentioned it right there, that the federal government's in trouble. And if the federal government's in trouble, New York, New Jersey, and California, their house is on fire. Okay, they cannot print more money, but the federal government can, and effectively create inflation if they want to, and print more money. But those states cannot print any more money, and they've got they've got serious pension issues and unfunded pension liabilities and other things, and are busting at the hips. At the same time, they've got people emigrating out of those states. So I think they're going to be even more creative on ways to raise taxes. California right now has a proposal to take it from 13.3 to 16.8. There are similar, and a wealth tax over 30 million per person at 40 basis points. These are things on the table. I think what California and other states will get creative, like Pennsylvania has had a steady stream of negative immigration population. They have a relatively low tax, and they have rules about raising the taxes. And of course, there's unwritten rules of this, but they actually charge in Pennsylvania, the 1031. If you do a 1031, you have to pay state income taxes. Okay, maybe people are not aware of that. I think New Jersey, New York, and California are going to move to different measures on the 1031 to charge some sort of state income tax, some sort of thing, rendering the 1031 basically useless for Californians, New Yorkers, and others, whereby they can't control the population, but they can tax that population moving. What typically happens is you do a 1031 and you get your property into Texas, and then somewhere down the road you season it long enough, and then you have amnesia that you actually had situs in that state. And California's been with the franchise tax board is pretty much a hunter to hunt you down. I have many examples of clients who've moved, and then they check they check their movement. I don't think they have the ability anymore to monitor that, to police that. And I really think that the 1031 basically gets kind of rendered useless by the states more easily, whereas New Jersey and New York and California have super majorities to get things done. And I think that you're right. I think you're absolutely right when you say that these states are situationally unaware of what's going on. And they, I heard Adam Carolla talk about, the podcaster talked about how California was that hot girl, that you knew in high school, and the phone rang all the time, and and Friday nights, and she didn't really have to do her homework or anything. But now that hot girl is 50, and the phone isn't ringing anymore. So I think there's a situational unaware where they're still not aware that people are actually fully vested in actually leaving. So I think, though, that there are those that when they do figure out, and the immigration issues are very serious. And when they face that, I think they're gonna come up with a solution.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Very interesting. I love that analogy. That is, there's certain fundamentals that you just can't get away with. You can't get away from the certain fundamentals and not have consequences, negative consequences, right?
Yeah,
It's even like the printing of money, right? And it feels like it's just living on candy and sugar, right? And the health
yeah,
of the economy, and I'm not an economist, right? But at a certain point, these things do come back, and it seems like California, it's finally really evident that the businesses are out of there, the population is decreasing, and our leadership has a big challenge ahead of them. In fact, I heard this stat I thought was really interesting, Michael, that 10,000 families in California, there's about 10,000 families, they account for 90% of the income tax. So if those 10,000 families were to, let's say, leave tomorrow, okay, and move to Texas or Tennessee or Nevada or Florida or somewhere that's, a little friendlier on businesses and incomes and tax, that California would, be in a situation where, I mean, I don't know at what point that, or the government just bails them out. It's really just interesting to see, and knowing that California is the fifth largest economy in the world, which is also pretty staggering. So, that being said, you had something in the beginning that you wanted to touch on now. Hopefully, you didn't forget it yet. Did you want to touch on a different part of the topic there?
well, I think just tying the immigration of people is, like you were saying, is not a sustainable economic model. Eventually, that bridge collapses and starts to deteriorate. I think we're seeing that. You're looking at certain counties, like I said, that were absolutely the bedrock, the growth of this state for as long as I've known. And as long as I've seen it, I've never seen Orange County had 3 consecutive negative years, or Santa Clara County as that. And so I think that all of this perfect storm leads people to think about, well, gee, do I really want real estate? Real estate for so long in this county and other counties was a religion. It was beyond maybe investment. And now people are thinking, well, maybe I could move to Texas, because people can move with their feet, right? And 40, 50 years ago, transportation was not what it is today, and moving and setting up and doing things differently, and communication and where you are is not as important now. That was proven in 2020, is that we can do all things by distance, like you and I. We're doing we're in California, we're both in California, but we're able to do it. I could just as easily be in Texas right now with a green screen of the water, maybe. I don't know. so not, I think that's a little dishonest, but I think the people are thinking about different options, and maybe freedom and taxes as
So
important.
let's dive right into that right now, right? And so this is why we believe wholeheartedly, and have been working with the structure for over a decade. Myself, and then the co-founders started this over 20 years ago, and Michael as well, over a decade. Is the Deferred Sales Trust. We truly believe it's a opportunity to not only get out of real estate, right, but to get diversified, to get liquid, not have to be forced to overpay for real estate in other areas, and escape this all the way. So if the 1031 exchange does go away, we believe will be the number one option moving forward, along with opportunity zones too that I think can have some attraction there as well. And that's exciting for us, but we really want to get the message out for the listeners. So you can go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. You should get a plan right now in case this thus does happen. And by the way, the 1031 exchange is also very limited. Most folks don't realize, but it's only works for investment property. In fact, if you're selling a primary home or a business, you're selling highly appreciated stock or cryptocurrency or artwork or collectibles, The 1031 exchange is not eligible, but the deferred sales trust is. Okay, by the way, not to be confused with the Delaware statutory trust, which is just another form of a 1031. It is an opportunity for you. So, in fact, we just did a deal in Palo Alto. It was a primary home sale, over $8 million. And we were able to use the deferred sales trust. We did another one in Atherton. We're doing one right now for Atherton for 9.5. And then we just saved a failed 1031 exchange for an apartment complex here recently as well. So it's here, but you got to get prepared, and you got to get educated, and you got to get it as a part of your plan. And we encourage you to do that today by going to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. So, Michael, you want to talk a little bit about maybe a deal or two recently that you've seen close, and what was the main reason they chose the deferred sales trust?
I think you bring up this real good point, and let me just try to tie two different things together. Maybe an anecdotal, example, as well as maybe this immigration issue. We're seeing this for this long time. We've seen this aging of population that's been occurring for a long time now. We see the pandemic, and if you're getting older, you're less inclined to want to move at this point. Okay, it's like ripping up $10 bills in a cold shower to really want to move, and people maybe even $100 bills. I don't know. And so people don't want to move, and they're faced with being a distant landlord or going into, like you said, a Delaware statutory trust, which is maybe riddled with fees and maybe not economical. So you're looking at all these different choices, and you're wondering, how do I get out of the tenants, toilets, and trash and onto the cruises, clubs, and cocktails of my life? And I think 2020 kind of sped that up. Life is short is kind of the mantra, and we all became like Monk. We all laughed at Monk on the TV show. Now we're washing our hands all the time, and we want to wash our hands maybe of things when you can't evict somebody on your real estate, and let's say you can't raise the rents. That tenants, toilets, and trash just went up maybe at one magnitude of frustration. So you've seen is all of this kind of combination, this cocktail of immigration here, maybe in California, New York, and New Jersey, where we're seeing a lot of cases. You just mentioned two cases in Santa Clara County. Right there, we're seeing a lot of cases in the Bay Area. We're seeing a lot of cases in Los Angeles, San Diego, Orange County, and the theme is, hey, I don't want to do this anymore. I have a limited bandwidth, a limited lifespan, and I really need to move on. And I can think of a few cases right now where the sellers have reached a breaking point. That they no longer think that there's an upside. I can think of a few people, they've got some really beautiful luxury properties, but they're not making any money. See, rents have not kept pace with the appreciation. The appreciation is at one level, but that you can't raise these rents. So this squeeze on the cap rates has really forced them to say and really question their sanity and wanting to hold on to it. And also they see a limited upside in the property. I can think of several people in 2020 who've approached me and say, Michael, what do I do? I mean, I've got these 20 properties. I've got these 15 properties. What do I do? And the Deferred Sales Trust is a really great opportunity to make that segue to divest yourself out of real estate, out of the entire sector, and not have to compromise yourself with being a distant landlord. And that you have your money there. What you're ultimately doing is you're selling the property to a trust, doing a non-recourse loan in which, like a self-directed IRA, you're able to determine what those assets are. We could do non-correlational assets to the S&P. Maybe you think, the S&P is too high, but maybe there are some alternatives whereby you won't go up and go down with the volatility of the S&P, but have a reasonable cash flow for yourself, for your family, and have a continuity plan for your children who may not be able to be up to the task of managing this real estate. It's complex. It's full time. It's sometimes it's very intense to manage real estate itself, and the rewards maybe just aren't there anymore. I think you have to think about that. And the deferred
Makes
sales
makes
trust is
makes
the only
sense.
one that can
Makes
really
sense,
do
Michael. I'm gonna jump right in too. Also, you can thank you for sharing that. You can also go into investment real estate of your own, okay, at any time. So it's not like you're just saying, okay, I've loved real estate, I've made my wealth, and now I'm going into this highly appreciated stock market. No, you can actually, put it in conservative portfolio, liquid investments, like Michael said. You could do the opposite, or just do stuff where you're hedging against the S&P. Okay, so stuff that's very. In fact, one of the best deal stories is the Monday morning quarterback story I call about the gentleman who sold a deal in Minnesota. He sold it in 2006, sold it at the peak, and sold it for a really high price. He's worth a lot of money. He loves commercial real estate. And so he looked around for a 1031 exchange, couldn't make sense of it. 5 years later, that same property that he sold was foreclosed on. And so the bank called him up and said, hey, you know that property you sold 5 years ago? He said, yeah. He said, hey, well, you want to buy it back? He says, well, maybe. What's the price? And they said 60 cents on the dollar. He says, interesting. Okay, sure. And so he uses Deferred Sales Trust to inform it. We have a special way we do that. We form an LLC, and we, like Michael said, like a self-directed IRA, the funds can be moved into this LLC, and then you can purchase that along with the LLC, this property at a discount. So it's an extra layer, an extra step. But by doing that, he bought it at 40% less, right? Versus taking on a bunch of debt and doing a 1031 exchange. So it's not just sell and move into the stock market. It's sell and get some liquidity in the stock market, maybe some insurance, maybe some mutual funds, maybe some fixed income, maybe some bonds, right? But also investment real estate, or with partners, right? There may be partners that are doing deals and you want to also be passive, but you want to stay in real estate. So you get a hybrid. So the point is, the Deferred Sales Trust is like a Swiss Army knife for your wealth plan. And it's not just a trade one property, move it into another. It's a trade one property and move it into multiple properties at any time or different asset classes. So that being said, Michael, we're running out of time. Is there one last thought you want to leave for the listeners, and also remind them where they can find you?
Yeah, I would like to reach out to maybe the financial advisors that are out there, and make sure you subscribe, hit that notification thing for Brett. He's got a great show, and you should follow him. I think that in 2020 taught anybody anything is that maybe the legacy financial firms are in a bit of trouble. And also you were trained maybe wrong to look at the entire picture. Where the country's wealth is in real estate and private equity. And that is making a major transition. That transition is like no other time in your life. I thought it was going to be big, but I never knew. With 2020, it just accelerated that in such a great way. And what a wonderful way to acquire clients and advise them is to take taxes off the table for them and to put a powerful thing. And for clients, one of your most expensive expenses in your financial independence, your quest for retirement, whatever you want to call that, is taxes. It's a major problem. Whether you're paying capital gains taxes, estate taxes, sales taxes, property taxes, and luxury tax. You go to a hotel, you're going to pay 15, 20% plus. They call it a resort fee. Okay, those are all things that affect your lifestyle. And if you don't address it, and you don't keep the money on your side of the table when you have it, it's extraordinarily punitive to your entire financial wellness. And so I leave that and think about those two issues to ponder for people as they make transitions in life, and as advisors are making these major transitions.
Thank you, Michael. And where can people find you for your YouTube channel as well? Would you plug that for us?
Yeah, it's Success Training at Estate Planning Team. So if you just put that in the YouTube, and sometimes those algorithms are funny. I'm not exactly sure how they work. So subscribe, like, and hit the notification bell on Brett and on me, and you'll learn a lot. You'll learn something hopefully every week.
Perfect. And thank you, Michael, for being on the show. And I want to just thank our listeners again for listening to the episode of the Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast. As always, we believe most high net worth individuals and those who help them struggle with clarifying their capital gains tax deferral options, not having an alternative to a 1031 exchange, or not having even an option to defer tax on the sale of a primary home or a business or other asset that doesn't qualify for a 1031 exchange is not a good idea. And one of the best ideas is to use the Deferred Sales Trust to grow your wealth. We appreciate the opportunity to speak with you today, and you guys listening to the podcast or watching it on YouTube or on Facebook Live. Or anywhere else that you might be consuming this information, please reach out to us at capitalgainstaxsolutions.com if we be of service to you. And also, if you're a high-end realtor, commercial real estate broker, syndicator, business professional, you can go to experttaxsecrets.com as well to learn about how to use the Deferred Sales Trust to grow your business. Hey, we appreciate you. Thank you, everybody, for watching